Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dylan Lutz with the National Weather Service here in Atlanta/Peachtree City, and this will be your weekly weather briefing for the week starting September 25th, 2025. All right, so starting with a little quick overview of the week ahead, we do have a marginal risk over a small portion of eastern Georgia today for some severe thunderstorm potential. That'll be later this afternoon into this evening where that will be maximized. But otherwise, we could see some thunderstorms across central Georgia and portions of eastern Georgia through the afternoon. As we go forward in time, there's a lot of yellow up here. Don't worry too much about it just yet. Mostly this is just for low end impacts due to basically daily thunderstorms that we'll have across the area Friday, Saturday, and those chances will shift into eastern Georgia really Saturday, Sunday, into Monday. Now, as we go into next week, that Tuesday, Wednesday time frame, we do have a tropical system, or I should say a potential tropical system. It is yet to actually form, that we will be talking about a little bit here later. There is a lot of uncertainty around that system and a lot of uncertainty as to whether or not we will see impacts in north and central Georgia. So we'll talk about that later, but know that going into the end next week, we could see some pretty substantial changes to the forecast depending on what happens. So here's what's going on currently out there, our latest satellite. Across northern Georgia, it's much cooler in a lot of places than it was yesterday, as we do have some cloud cover and a cold front that has slowly started to spill a little bit of cooler air into the area. That boundary is kind of over metro Atlanta, and so it is starting to heat up, especially on the south side of metro Atlanta. We do have some ongoing storms that are ahead of that front that are currently in west central Georgia and have already started to kind of push into central Georgia. You can see on the map here, this is basically showing the current satellite with the colors. The nice colors there are actually lightning that the satellite is picking up. So we do have a couple of active thunderstorms down there. We've had to issue a couple of what we would call severe weather advisories, or basically just storms that could produce winds up to say 40 miles an hour or something like that. So those will continue to push east through the day. We do have a marginal risk in effect for basically primarily eastern portions of Georgia. So basically places like, take a line along Athens to Macon and eastward from there, and that's pretty much where that marginal risk is. The biggest threat today is just going to be the risk for damaging winds. We're not really concerned about too much else. Can't rule out that you could see some smaller hail with a few of these storms, so things that would be less than an inch in size and are less likely to do any kind of damage to say your roof or a vehicle or something like that, but could still be a nuisance out there. But again, primary threat we're worried about today with any of these storms that do form are going to be damaging winds. That the primary kind of time frame of that threat is going to be the afternoon into the evening, as storms that are currently developing, as we kind of saw previously in western portions of central Georgia, continue to push to the north and the east. Going into tonight and Friday, we do have this frontal boundary that is kind of just stalled out over the area, and it doesn't look like it's going to move anywhere too fast, at least for the next day or so. And so to the north of that boundary, you'll have cooler air, potentially some cloud cover, and it should be a little bit less humid. However, if you are unfortunately south of that boundary, say down in central or eastern Georgia, air is going to be a little bit more humid, and you can definitely see some warmer temperatures during the day, at least today and Friday. That boundary also will be kind of a spark for some additional thunderstorm activity through tonight and into tomorrow. And so we do have thunderstorm chances pretty much everywhere tomorrow, but your best chances are definitely going to be along and in front of that boundary to see any kind of thunderstorm. That said, as of right now, while we do have a marginal risk for today, we do not have any risk in effect for tomorrow, just a general thunderstorm risk. All right, so looking forward for high temperatures. As we kind of said, you can see where that potential boundary is. So here is tomorrow's high temperatures. We've got 80s across basically the metro, and honestly even down into portions of central Georgia. And then as you get into east central Georgia, those temperatures start to pick up a little bit, where we will have that more humid air mass and a little bit less cloud cover in place. This pattern's going to kind of stick into Saturday. And then going into Sunday and Monday, we'll see things kind of slowly starting to warm up a little bit, but we should remain pretty seasonable for this time of year, maybe a couple of degrees above average in some locations, but pretty much in the 80s everywhere that are outside of the mountains. And as you get up into the mountains and the valleys up there, you could see upper 70s for highs. For lows, it's going to be pretty warm tonight, and that's going to be in large part due to some expected cloud cover. So temperatures will be in the upper 60s to lower 70s in some locations, and then we'll get to more normal temperatures as we go into tomorrow night and Saturday night and Sunday night, as well as temperatures will be in the lower to mid 60s in many locations. Alright, so what you're probably here for is the tropical update, as we are starting to see some social media, we'll say hype, get generated around a potential tropical system that may develop early next week, or I should say really develop over the weekend and then push near the eastern coast early next week. So that wave is currently over the Caribbean, specifically over the island of Hispaniola. It's going to move to the northwest pretty slowly over the next several days. And several of the models, especially today, have been keying in on that system potentially swinging back towards the U.S. and possibly even developing and then making landfall somewhere between, say, the Florida coast all the way up through Georgia, South Carolina, and into North Carolina. Not all models are doing this. Some swing it back out to sea. And so what we kind of want to emphasize with this right now is there's still a lot of uncertainty on the exact track and strength of this potential system. This is an especially volatile situation in terms of figuring out exactly where this is going to go, because we have a lot of very kind of complicated interactions that are potentially going to be happening around this system that could make the difference between it swinging towards land or going the exact opposite direction and swinging out to sea. So we may not have more certainty on this until potentially for several more days. That being said, the National Weather Service, we are launching additional balloons right now across the entire eastern coast to try to get more data to put into our models so that we can hopefully get a better handle on the potential track of this system. But the key message around this right now is going to be that uncertainty is high. You do need to be prepared for a potential tropical system making landfall somewhere along the eastern coast that could then work its way into, say, north and central Georgia. However, right now, we cannot say with any certainty exactly what that is going to look like, will it actually even happen, or what kind of strength that system would have. So stay tuned to the forecast for sure on this one. Otherwise, out in the tropics, we have Hurricane Gabrielle, we have Tropical Storm Humberto that formed yesterday. Both of these storms, Gabrielle is already well out to sea and will likely become what we call extratropical. It will no longer be a tropical system soon as it continues to work its way towards basically Europe. And Humberto is expected to swing out to sea pretty close to Bermuda, very similar to what Gabrielle did. The only importance it will have will be in how it interacts with our potential other tropical system as highlighted by this red area here. With all that said, we can look at the forecast on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and because of the uncertainty around that tropical system, that creates a lot of uncertainty on this portion of the forecast. If that tropical system, say, stays further to the east, does not work its way into, say, north and central Georgia, or ends up hanging out just off the east coast and swinging out to sea or something like that, then our overall rain chances are likely going to be pretty low and our temperatures will be pretty mild for this time of year. And our current forecast does pretty much reflect that in a lot of ways. However, if the system does end up impacting north and central Georgia, obviously expect that to change. It might be a little bit more wet, might be a little bit more windy, and it may be a little bit cooler as a result. So expect us to refine this forecast over the coming days as we gain more certainty, but right now know that it's a pretty volatile forecast on that end of things. Now with the tropics out of the way, we can talk a little bit about the ongoing drought across the state. So that drought conditions that we saw kind of introduced last week have continued to expand this past week. We did see some introduction of what we call D2 or severe drought into a couple of counties across Georgia. Rainfall does remain very low for average in many areas over the past 30 days. We did see beneficial rainfall that fell across northern Georgia last night, so Wednesday night into this morning. However, there's a lot of places that with that beneficial rainfall got honestly less than an inch of rain, and that will do some for sure to help eliminate some of the drought conditions up in those regions, but it absolutely will not eliminate many of the drought conditions that are happening in those regions. And as we get further into, say, the south side of the metro and central Georgia, we got a lot less rainfall last night. Some places barely saw any, if any, at all. And the rain that has fallen so far today across central Georgia has been pretty spotty. So that's not going to do a lot either to help these drought conditions as long as it remains in place. That all being said, obviously, if we do see potential impacts from, say, a tropical system and rainfall from a tropical system, one of the few benefits of that would be that we could see some additional precipitation that falls in the area that would certainly help again with those drought conditions. Outside of that, however, if we look at the kind of the next week, so to speak, beyond this presentation today, so looking out 8 to 14 days or the first week of October, essentially, the Climate Prediction Center does have us highlighted as having leaning to above average chances of seeing higher than normal precipitation than we would see for this time of year. So that's a good thing. It does hint that there is something that we are seeing that is showing the potential for seeing some additional precipitation across the region that would also potentially help with those drought conditions. So with all of that said, that's our weekly weather briefing for today. If you have any questions about anything we've talked about today, please do not hesitate to contact us. You can reach us by phone. We're always checking our email here. For those on places like X and Instagram and Facebook, we do check those fairly frequently. It may take us a little bit longer to respond if you send us a private message or something like that on those platforms. And as always, this briefing will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week.